The frame you're holding right now costs the shop somewhere between $10 and $30. It'll ring up at $150, maybe $400. And the thing is, that's not a secret. Markups of 200 to 500% over wholesale are just how this industry works, and they've worked that way for decades. Most people hear that and think, well, of course, they're greedy. But greed doesn't really explain it. Greed is everywhere. Greed usually gets punished the second somebody shows up selling the same thing cheaper. So that's the real question, isn't it? Not why are glasses expensive? Why has nobody undercut them? Let's take it apart. The obvious answer is overhead, and honestly, the obvious answer is true. A shop selling you glasses isn't a vending machine. Somebody's paying rent on a unit in a busy street. Somebody trained the staff. There's a machine that measures your eyes. There's the exam. There's the fitting. There's the guy who fixes them for free when you sit on them. That's real money. Independents run 3 to 5 times wholesale. Most chains sit at 2 to 3. The fashion places push it back up to 5. But look at what that actually explains. It explains a markup. It doesn't explain why the markup never moves. Anywhere else, a 400% margin is a flashing sign that says, "Come and take this from me." Competitors show up. Prices fall. That's meant to be the whole point. Quick one before we keep going, because I'm genuinely curious how wide this gets. What did you last pay for a pair of glasses? And did it feel like you actually had a choice about where you bought them? Now, to be fair, I should say the lenses aren't nothing. Grinding and coating and finishing a lens is proper manufacturing. A finished single-vision pair costs somewhere around $20 to $150 wholesale. Progressives or anything specialist, $60 to $300. So when the optician tells you the lenses are the expensive bit, they're not making that up. The frame is a different story. The frame is the $15 object with the $300 price tag. So, why does nobody undercut it? To answer that, you have to stop asking what you're buying and start asking who you're buying it from. There's a company called Luxottica. You've almost certainly never bought anything with that name on it. And you've almost certainly bought something they made. They own Ray-Ban. Outright. They own Oakley. Outright. They make the frames for dozens of luxury fashion houses under license, so a lot of those designer names on the arm are, in manufacturing terms, the same company. All in, more than 150 brands. Then they own the shops, Sunglass Hut, Lens Crafters, Vision Express, Apollo, and in America, they own iMed, which is one of the biggest vision insurers in the country. So there's a decent chance the insurance deciding which glasses you can afford is owned by the company that made the glasses. Say that chain back to yourself. Manufacturer, brand, shop, insurance. The numbers are what you'd expect from that. Revenue for the 12 months to June 2026 was $33.46 billion, up from $27.58 billion in 2024. First half of 2026 alone, 14.8 billion euros, up nearly 10%. Estimates of their grip on the major eyewear brands run past 80%, and plenty of analysts have reached for the word monopoly. Now, I'm not going to skip the awkward bit. The FTC looked at this. The EU looked at this. Neither found an antitrust violation, and the 2018 merger went through. It got a lot of criticism from antitrust people at the time, but legally, it cleared. So if it's all above board, what does a structure like that actually do to somebody trying to compete? There's one story that answers it completely. In 1995, Oakley goes public, raises $230 million. Serious brand, serious product, actual engineering behind it. Within about a year, they're in a pricing argument with Luxottica, who at that point are already the biggest eyewear manufacturer and retailer on the planet. Then, in early 2001, Luxottica buys Sunglass Hut. And they go to Oakley and say, "We'd like to pay you significantly less, or we cut our orders and push our own brands instead." Oakley said no. So Luxottica cut the orders and pulled Oakley off the shelves at Sunglass Hut and Lens Crafters and everywhere else they owned. Oakley's stock collapsed, and in 2007, Luxottica bought the whole company for about $2.1 billion, $29.30 a share. Here's the part I keep coming back to. Oakley didn't lose because the sunglasses got worse. They were the exact same sunglasses on the Friday as they were on the Monday. Oakley lost because the company across the negotiating table also owned the shelf. That's what vertical integration actually means, once you strip the phrase down. It's not just that they make a lot of things, it's that to beat them, you don't only need a better product at a lower price. You need somewhere to sell it. And most of the doors open into the same building. So, pulling it together, the rent is real, the staff are real, the eye test and the fitting and the warranty are real, and they explain a genuine chunk of what you hand over. What they don't explain is why it never changes. Prices that sit at 300% and 400% over wholesale for 30 years aren't really a story about costs. They're a story about structure, and it isn't fading either. Ray-Ban and Oakley are their top performers right now, carried along by AI glasses. Ray-Ban Meta revenue tripled year on year, over 7 million units sold by 2025, and Meta and EssilorLuxottica together held roughly 69% of the smart glasses market in the first quarter of 2026. Same chain, new category, locked up before the category properly exists. So here's the whole thing in one line. You're not paying $300 for a bit of plastic and glass. You're paying for the fact that nearly every door you could walk through to buy them opens into the same company.